It's the pound-for-pound best region in competitive League of Legends. Just the 55th most populous country in the world, Taiwan, a tiny island off the coast of a global esports superpower, has far from shrunk in the shadow of its big brother. Rather, until 2018, its teams had won more world championships than China and distinguished themselves by their consistent international results as more than just a plucky minor region. Taiwan carved out an identity for itself as a bona fide talent factory, churning out more players that have made more Worlds appearances than those of any other region besides China and Korea. But the nebulous state of League esports and its leagues has seen Taiwan gain and then lose its single country region status despite demanding international respect in the late 2010s, most notably through its golden child, the 2017 Flash Wolves. That team put the world on notice, but simultaneously also started the international culling of Taiwan's talent, mostly by its aforementioned Chinese big brothers. It's true that Taiwan's best and brightest have captured more accolades off the island than on it, but the moments that gave its fans the most pride came when its homegrown talent was flying its flag alone. To best tell the story of Taiwanese League of Legends, one needs to understand its most quintessential trait, the pride that its fans had in the region's teams. And to do that, we begin at the end of the League of Legends Masters Series in 2019. The LMS, as it was more commonly known, was the league formed in 2015 when Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau broke away from the rest of Southeast Asia and the Garena Premier League. Even though Hong Kong and Macau were technically participants, there was only one Hong Kong team and no Macau teams. This was Taiwan's league only in all but formality. The final 2 matches ever to be played by an LMS team could not have been more different. On the one hand, you had a near meaningless match between AHQ Esports Club and Korea's Damwon Gaming, the latter having already clinched a spot in the World's 2019 knockout round before they throttled AHQ and left them 0-6 at the tournament. On the other hand, you had the LPL's first seed and eventual world champions FunPlus Phoenix crushing J-Team en route to securing first in their group and eliminating the LMS squad from Worlds. After that game, Taiwanese caster JR broke down in tears live on the desk.
哎呀，没事没事。
我没有想到他们我没有想到说出全体结束世界赛之旅会这么的沉重。
好，大家相信大家应该都蛮难过的啦。那其实因为现在的世界赛
Why did it matter this much to fans of the region? What made this exit from Worlds 2019 particularly crushing? Right before Worlds 2019, it was announced that the LMS would merge with other Southeast Asian regions to form the PCS, a league that would reintegrate teams from Malaysia, Thailand, the Philippines, and Singapore. Essentially, this was the Garena Premier League 2.0. Worlds 2019 was the LMS's last hurrah, and J-Team its last hope. They were drawn into arguably the weakest group at Worlds and beat Splice and FPX in quick succession in the first round robin. Despite the eventual aforementioned heartbreak, it looked like J-Team were on the verge of one last year of the LMS upsetting the establishment, a tradition that started with the world champion Taipei Assassins in 2012, the only team to ever beat a Korean team in the World Finals, and still the only minor region world champion ever. It's fitting that the story of Taiwanese League of Legends started with the Assassins and ended its most recent iteration with J-Team. After all, they're the same team. The change in name only came as a result of Taiwanese pop sensation Jay Cho purchasing the team and renaming them in 2016. In the GPL, the league that Taiwanese teams called home through 2014, there wasn't a lot of great domestic competition. The only time a non-Taiwanese team won the GPL was after the Taiwanese teams had left the GPL. But the formation of the breakaway LMS in 2015 afforded better competition domestically and access to better scrim partners in China and Korea. In its first year in 2015, the LMS announced its arrival by taking a battering ram to the doors of international competitions and kicking out the foundations from under the established competitive order. AHQ reached MSI semifinals that year and eventually came in second in their Worlds group over Cloud9 and Invictus Gaming. Not to be outdone, the Flash Wolves won their group as well while beating CLG and 2-0ing eventual world finalists KOO Tigers. And for them, the fun was just beginning. The Wolves proceeded to make MSI semifinals for the next 3 years in a row, and domestically they rattled off 7 straight titles with a combined 21-1 record in those finals against 4 different teams. It was enough to put them on the radar of teams in regions with a lot more money, prestige, and a higher chance of claiming the Summoners Cup. The region itself was always viewed with respect by international tournament organizers, as evidenced by the fact that the winners of the LMS were occasionally put in the same pool as champions of major regions, both at MSI and Worlds. It was the only minor region to receive this kind of treatment akin to that which a major region did. Heck, the only time a Korean team has ever lost a Worlds final to a non-Korean team was back in 2012 when Azubu Frost were taken down by the Taipei Assassins. Yes, the league landscape was fundamentally different in many ways all those years ago, but still, being the only region ever to face down a Korean squad with a world title on the line and come out victorious is a claim that no other region can make even now. Given its population size and infrastructure, it was at various points the pound-for-pound best region in the world. And perhaps the most tragically salient evidence for that was the near constant player exodus for bigger regions with more money and better competition and exposure. Take the 2017 Flash Wolves, the greatest LMS team ever assembled and one of the greatest teams ever, period, as just one example. They sported a ridiculously talented roster of MMD, Karsa, Maple, Betty, and Sword Art. That year, they made the second of their 3 consecutive MSI semifinal appearances and were only bounced by a titanic SK Telecom T1 squad of eventual world finalists in Huni, Peanut, Faker, Bang, and Wolf. Where are the 2017 Flash Wolves now? Maple is back in his home region as the mid laner for PSG Talon after a brief stint in the LPL. Betty became the first person to start as AD carry for RNG since 2016, not named Uzi, and is currently playing for Rogue Warriors. After Sword Art helped turn Huanfeng into a world-class ADC and lead Suning in a Cinderella run to the World Finals in 2020, he signed a record-breaking $6 million deal to become the starting support at TSM and is currently partnering with another young AD carry in Lost. Finally, arguably the most successful LMS product of all time, Karsa's career post-Flash Wolves is just as incredible. In 2018, he joined RNG, where he and Uzi won spring and summer LPL titles as well as MSI, and in 2020 signed on as the jungler for Top Esports, where they won the Mid-Season Cup and the LPL Summer Crown. Because of this scorching run of form, TES were thought by many to be the best team on the planet heading into Worlds, but Karsa's title hopes were dashed in the semifinals by his former teammate Sword Art and Suning. Karsa and Sword Art are among a Hall of Fame caliber group of only 9 players ever to have made Worlds 6 times. More times than any player ever not named Doublelift or Sneaky, and more times than Faker. Even the team's former coaches, Stake and Chashao, have made the rounds. Chashao just finished a stint at Suning where he got to coach Sword Art again, and Stake coached Rogue Warriors when former world champion Doinby was its mid laner, reunited with Karsa again for a year in 2019 at RNG, and finally with Maple in 2020 at LNG, before recently being named the head coach of Fun Plus Phoenix for 2021. This was the blessing and the curse of the region regardless of its iteration. The best Taiwanese players in the world didn't peak in Taiwan, but they still made their country proud on the international stage. Individually, the legacy and diaspora of the LMS and the golden age of Taiwanese League of Legends that it represented lives on through players like Betty, Maple, Sword Art, and Karsa. To many, the death of the LMS meant the death of a source of uniquely Taiwanese unity and pride that a region so split by internal politics didn't often encounter. But as the end of one thing means the beginning of another, the legacy of the LMS might end up being its most important contribution to the esport. The region's greatest triumph in 2012 occurred before the LMS even existed, and in 2020, the first year of the PCS, 2 Taiwanese teams represented the league at the World Championships. The depth of the league was even further displayed when second-seeded PSG Talon had to field substitutes for the play-ins from an AHQ Esports Club roster that didn't even qualify for Worlds themselves. They would persevere through to a group stage berth with that piecemeal squad. The second and third seed LMS squads didn't win a single game at Worlds in 2018 and 2019, and no LMS team has advanced to the quarterfinals since 2015. But the PCS has proven a fitting successor to the LMS, one that embodies the same underdog fighting spirit. In 2020, PSG Talon and Machi Esports did their region proud, especially considering the adversity faced by the former in the play-in stages. And despite an era of change that has also seen Oceania's OPL fold, the incredible legacy of the LMS is also where hope can be found. Taiwan's continued success under new circumstances proves that no matter what formal label the region's teams bear, the origin and spirit of their fight for the Summoner's Cup will never truly die.